I was born or cursed, I guess, with a voice that it had to have back in those days. It isn't all that important anymore. But when I was 6 years old, I built my first crystal set, wrapping the coil on an old oatmeal box, and was a great fan of broadcasting.
Art graduated from high school in 1937. His knack for writing got him a job at the Fort Collins Express Courier.
And the city editor came in with an announcement that a company had applied for a radio station in Cheyenne. This was about August or September 1939. The station got on the air then in 1940. I went up and took an audition and was hired. You had to be a good reader and a good writer. I think my one claim to fame in broadcasting, I broke Kurt Gowdy in his first day on the air. Taught him how to operate the console, how to load the paper on the teletype. I was on duty the morning Pearl Harbor was bombed. Back in those days, the old teletypes, if it rang 5 bells, you wanted to go take a look. It was a pretty good story. If it rang 10 bells, you wanted to hurry a little faster. Well, when the bells started ringing, they didn't stop for about the next 2 or 3 days.
He joined the Army and was stationed at Fort Warren in Cheyenne. During the war, he was a public affairs instructor and found himself at KFBC on war bond drives with some pretty famous people. He'd been given a medical discharge, so he went back to KFBC. Then on to KVOD in Denver.
The interesting thing then, at the end of the war, when the Japanese surrendered, I was on duty at KVOD here in Denver. People were tossing paper out, so we decided we cleaned out the files, and we must have torn up 20 years worth of newscasts, tossing them out the window, and we did a whale of a job of messing up the intersection on the corner of 17th and Glenarm. I never will forget that.
Art was heard on the 10 p.m. news nightly before television.
I think my happiest days in broadcasting were in radio. It was less pressure, it was less money, but it was a lot more fun, and it was just really a pleasure to go to work in radio.
In 1962, he moved into television at Channel 2.
Originally, we had a thing called Look or Listen, which was rather strange. And then later that evolved into a morning show that I did with Dave Scott called Anything Goes. And we interviewed all kinds of movie stars and so forth on that. That was a lot of fun.
Then in 1963, he moved to KBTV, Channel 9 in Denver. And from 1963 to 1965, was back on the air doing the 10 p.m. news, this time on television.
In addition to doing the 10 o'clock news for a few years, they sent me all over the world as a man on the go. I had assignments in such places as Vietnam, Dominican Republic, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, all over Europe. We had just gone to bed in the press section up at Da Nang, and a rocket went off up in the attic of the building and made a terrible boom. I thought I had lost my hearing. Went out and dived into the revetment, and the guy that landed on top of me was Ted Koppel, was a correspondent there at that time, and it was an interesting experience. I covered a lot of miles. I'm a 500,000 miler with United Airlines, but it was a great career, but I'm glad it's behind me.
The broadcast pioneers of Colorado are proud to induct Art Peterson into the BPC Hall of Fame 2005.